Hello everyone, this is Steve with the Free Bullion Investment Guide. Today is September 7th. Now I'm doing a review and outlook price analysis video for gold and silver this week. Normally I put them in separate price chart videos, but today I'm putting them in the same one simply because they both got similar patterns in each chart and they just have simply both the same outlook, and it's just easier to go over them both at the same time. With silver's price chart, in last week's video, I'd shown you these multiple bull flags. They were kind of large, and kind of as you can see, they're getting slightly smaller as it went up, and then this most recent one was kind of a blow off top where we saw the bull flag confirmed. It stayed below the 1865 resistance level a little bit, and then it blew above it. It shot all the way up to the 1965 level, and then it came back down on Thursday. And the same thing happened with gold. Gold, multiple bull flags. I didn't point out these others, but you can see that we have other bull flags here and here and in multiple areas. They're easier to point out. You can also see smaller ones that formed and so on. And I'd shown you these other prior to bull flags. This one was actually in the middle of its creation last week when I posted gold's video, and it was confirmed just this past week. It rose up to the upside until Wednesday when it broke. Well, it went up to the 1555 level, and then on Wednesday it fell to the downside. Now, why did it fall? On Thursday, we had an article come out. Well, actually, it came out on multiple websites. I cited CNBC's article that a Chinese insider basically tweeted that we were going to see a breakthrough. We should see some breakthroughs at the trade talks coming in October, which really corresponded with my hypothesis as to the reason behind the latest gold and silver bull market. It's likely that after these trade talks, if we ever see a deal in the trade talks, that we'll see gold and silver come back to the levels that we saw several months ago. There is a possibility that there will be more uncertainties in the market, and also an election year is also a bull. Often it can lead to a bull market in the safe havens simply because of the unknowns that if Trump looks like he's down, we'll likely see the markets be unsure about the future with the market simply because of the policies of what we hear out of the Democrats. But I try to stay politically neutral with my analysis, and that's what I'm going to try to continue to do. Anyways, if we get a trade deal, we'll likely see the price of gold and silver fall, whereas as long as the uncertainties continue, where we get both sides trading words to the bad side in one way or another, we'll likely continue to see the uncertainties mount and gold and silver rise. But on Thursday and Friday, we had heard those good things come out of about the trade talks in the future, and we had the price of gold and silver fall. Now, we also had Powell make a speech. He made a speech, I believe it was I think it was in Switzerland, but I'm really not quite sure. But again, he made a speech, and the Wall Street Journal basically stated that they think that from what he said, it signaled a rate cut. Now, that should be a positive for gold and silver, but I've been listening to what other Fed governors have said here in the past month, and they kind of sound like they're not into cutting rates in the future, that they want to they're not, as far as the trade deal doesn't happen, they're likely going to, from what they say, if you try to read between the lines, it's likely we're going to continue to see a rate cut. But once we get a trade deal, we're likely going to see the end of that. But what I think is that we will get a rate cut at the next meeting of 25 basis points on September 17th and 18th. And then we'll also hear Powell say that he's going to continue to look at economic indicators, which is what they always say as far as future rate cuts. And that will likely also cause gold and silver to tumble, because the market wants to hear that we're going to get more rate cuts in the future, which I'm willing to bet that they're not going to give the market what they want to hear. So for gold's outlook, I'm really not showing any new patterns other than this is clearly not a bull flag. If anything, it's bearish, but the ascending channel is still bull, still positive for the gold market. However, in addition to the 4-hour charts indicators, the MACD and the RSI are both in oversold territory, and looks like we should see a bounce. Now, if we go to the daily chart for gold, we should possibly see the price fall somewhat. It may stay into the ascending channel next week, but we should possibly see a pullback, maybe some profit taking. It matters also what happens is fundamentally. If we get good news out of the trade deal, we'll likely see the price of silver and gold fall. If we get bad news, it'll be the opposite. We'll see them rise. But the MACD is signaling that we could see a further price fall for gold, as well as the RSI is still in overbought territory as well. Now, if we go to silver's price chart is actually showing a negative pattern that I have been able to find. We have this, it's actually created a large rising wedge. Now, I've shown large rising wedges in silver's price chart before, and it denied it on fundamental movements week before last, I believe. But in the week to come, we really don't know. I mean, if you look at the daily chart MACD is in overbought territory and clearly looks like it could come down, as well as the RSI is in overbought territory. And if we look at the 4-hour chart, in the 4-hour chart, it looks like we could see a bounce to the upside. Maybe it could be a dead cat bounce, where you get something like where you get a bounce and then come back down. That's what you call a dead cat bounce. Basically, they call it a dead. Let me get off this thing. Anyways, they call it a dead cat bounce simply because it's how much you would expect a dead cat would bounce if you threw it from from anywhere. It barely, it's like throwing a dead ball, a ball that has no air in it. It barely makes a bounce, and that's where they get a dead cat bounce. So we may see that out of silver next week, where it may bounce to the upside a little bit and then come back down and confirm this pattern. It really depends a lot on what comes out of the future trade talks, and what, if anything, comes out of if any Fed governors, or if Powell says anything more about the future of rate cuts. So that's it for this week's review and outlook for silver and gold. And I thank you for your time. Take care, and God bless.